Can you believe it? September's almost here. And if you're anything like me, that back to school feeling is starting to creep in. Maybe it's the ex-teacher in me, but it always feels more like a real new year than January. But with that, often the pace begins to pick up after a more leisurely summer. And before you've even clocked it, you're back into the full-on juggle and you're sprinting through the weeks in the run-up to Christmas. Yes, sorry, I did say the C word. But that's usually when the spiral kicks in. You know the one where one small thought suddenly snowballs into 10 worst-case scenarios, or a flicker of worry becomes a full-blown mental detour. That's because when your system's already wired for go, 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 it only takes the smallest thing, the ping of an email or a harsh tone from a colleague or a snarky comment from your teenager, and suddenly your shoulders are up by your ears and you snap, you lose it, and you start then that spiral of guilt, of worry, of endless unhelpful thoughts. So this September, I'm inviting you to change that. It's called the Nervous System Rewire. You'll get 4 weeks access inside my membership, The Inner Space, to help you interrupt that spiral and come back to calm in the exact moments you need it most. This isn't about trying to relax. It's about retraining your body so calm becomes your default setting. Plus, when you reset your body's baseline, you create more space to pause, to notice, to choose your response instead of spiraling. And that is so powerful. And with the right techniques, which I'm going to teach, you can even stop a spiral in its tracks before it takes hold. So this is for you if you find yourself snapping over little things or carrying that constant undercurrent of tension, or if you're someone who lies in bed with a busy mind that just won't switch off. We're going to meet live 3 mornings a week for short breathwork sessions. Don't worry if you can't make them live, as all the replays will be available. You'll also learn my pattern breaker techniques until they become second nature, and you're going to get gentle daily nudges to keep you on track. And you're, of course, going to get a fantastic community of women doing it alongside you. For all this, it's just £37 for the whole month. I really hope to see you in there. We start on Monday, the 2nd of September. So instead of just going back to your old routine this year, maybe it's time to go back to calm, back to a place where you get to respond in the way you want to rather than react and spiral. I'd love to have you with us. For more information and to join, you can go to pollywarren.com/the inner space, and I'll put that link in the show notes. Now let's get on with this episode. Welcome to Thursday Thoughts, your weekly dose of real, honest conversation on all things personal growth. These are the chats Lucy and I love having every week over on Instagram. They're unfiltered, unedited, and always rooted in practical tools and a dose of inspiration. Let's dive in.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, love. How are you?
Good. I was just listening to your Radio 2 piece of Jeremy Vine. Well, I didn't finish listening to it, but I just saw your post. So yeah, did it go okay?
I think so. I think so. I was definitely, I was less nervous than I was the first time. But to be honest with you, it's pretty terrifying.
Well, from what I heard, it sounded great, and I love the fact that he really he referenced all the nasty trolls and everything.
I know. No, he was lovely. He was really lovely. So yeah, I enjoyed it actually, and I definitely felt like when I came out of the last one, as you know, I was like, oh my god. But I think I'd just been feeling so anxious about it because it was the first time I've been on his show before, but on the phone, and it's a very different experience going into the studio.
Yeah.
Just knowing how many listeners he gets. But, you know, this is a good example of something that puts us out of our comfort zone. And my God, did that put me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But you know, I was thinking about this morning, actually, how, you know, it was just a reminder how we have to move through that discomfort, because if we avoid discomfort, we're never going to do anything that is going to expand our lives. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't feel nice. It doesn't feel nice. And in fact, you know, every fiber of my being, like the day before, I was just thinking, I really would rather not have to do this, because even though I know I feel really pleased when I've done it, right now it feels really uncomfortable. It feels horrible. It feels scary, all of these things. But you have to move through that discomfort and just get used to that feeling and just know that it's completely normal. And on the other side of it, that's where the growth is. And that's where the confidence grows, you know. So
but because this was your third time on Jeremy Vine,
no,
wasn't it?
it was my second. So I've been on his show a couple
You've
of
been on the
times.
phone.
Oh yeah, on the phone. But that was so different, because you're on the phone, and I was literally just on for like a few minutes.
Right.
When I went on in July, that was like me on for, because he does 4 features in his 2-hour show, and I was, you know, last time we were talking about the book, that was in July, so that was the first time I actually gone actually into the studio and kind of been the guest for that particular segment.
Right. Yeah.
So this was the second time. But you know what's crazy, Polly, and this is such a good kind of lesson for anyone who's listening or watching, is that the hilarious thing is that, having been so scared the first time, a bit less scared yesterday, but actually what happens is that now I'm thinking, I want to go on again. I want to do it again. And so, and again, it's about moving through that fear and moving through that discomfort, or not even just doing the goddamn thing anyway, with fear, feeling the fear and knowing that it's completely normal, but doing it anyway, because that truly is how you grow and how you kind of upgrade your life. And you know, it's just, when I think back, it's something that was so inconceivable not so long ago. But when you do things that scare you regularly, it really, truly, what it does is it just taps away at your, or not taps away, rather, that's completely opposite, but it grows your confidence. And then you feel more confident to do other things, or to do the thing that's, again, we always come back to these lives. These lives used to scare the crap out of me, particularly. Now it's just
me too.
Whatever.
Yeah. And also, it's because you've just stretched that muscle so many times now that we can just turn up and we can do this. And
I can't even remember what we talked about this morning.
I think the biggest difference as well is that you just learn to give it less of a shit. You can let it go. So even if you kind of afterwards think, oh my God, I don't know what often it's like, we always say, I don't know what I was saying. I think that was a load of rubbish. But the difference is, rather than sitting and worrying about it, actually, we're both able now to go, well, so what? Let it go. It's fine.
100, yeah.
And that's the difference, I think.
Yeah, like you're so right. You're so right. Exactly that. I mean, even, you know, yesterday there are a few things that I thought about yesterday, thinking, kind of rolling my eyes at myself, like, oh God, you know, why did I say that? Or I wish I'd said that, or I didn't say that very well. And exactly like you say, it's that ability to just let these things go and not allow them to kind of make you feel completely mortified, so that you never want to do it again. It really is. It really is quite freeing. And it's funny, because just before I went into the studio, it's on the 8th floor of Broadcasting House, right? The Radio 2 studios. And I was looking out of the window, like minutes before I went on. I could hear Radio 2, the output, and it was the news. And I was thinking, oh my God, they're going to call me in a second. I was just feeling like, oh God. But I was looking out the window over this kind of view of London from up high. And I was thinking to myself, Lucy, no one cares. No one gives a shit about you going on the radio. No one fucking cares. Yeah. And even if they do, they're not going to care in 5 minutes, because they're going to have moved on to the next thing. And that's the other thing, I think, to move yourself forward. It's like, you just have to give yourself a bit of a reality check. Like, no one is going to be thinking about you 2 seconds after it's done. Nobody cares. And that always really helps me. And I was literally looking out the window thinking that exact thing. Lucy, no one gives a shit. No one cares. Just get in there and do it, because it doesn't matter.
Well done. All good. It's all good. Well, and actually, it ties in really nicely with what we're talking about today, which I know you can't remember.
What we're talking about today.
So I suggested that we talk about this phrase from someone called Dan Harris, who does the 10% podcast, and I heard it. It was actually Giles, my husband, who shared it with me, and I love it. And it's action absorbs anxiety.
That's
So
it.
it's very similar to exactly what you have just described.
Yeah.
Because basically, when we're anxious and worried about something, we just stay stuck in our heads with all the what ifs and the worst case scenarios. We just sort of ruminate. And the longer we sort of stay there, the bigger it all feels. But the moment we take even this tiniest step forward, then something really starts to shift. We kind of move out of that overthinking spiral and back into the present. And that's when things begin to feel much lighter and more manageable. So, and there's reason for all this. So let me just explain the reason. So when we feel anxious, it's not just in our heads, it's also in our bodies too. So our nervous system goes into that fight or flight survival mode. And the body floods with cortisol, with all those stress hormones, adrenaline, which I'm sure you experienced yesterday. Your heart rate rises, your breathing speeds up, everything feels a little bit more tense. And basically that's your body saying, okay, something feels not safe here. This does not feel very good. And so the body is getting ready to act. Now, the problem is, if we don't act like we used to do all those years ago, which was either to fight, to use that energy up, to flee, to run away, use that energy up, or to freeze. Well, the fight or the flight, we need to use the energy. But often, what we're doing often is we're not using energy up. Now, the freeze is obviously you're not using that energy up either. You get into that real kind of frozen state. But what happens is that energy, which has been mobilized through that stress response, is stuck in the body. So that's where the anxiety really where you feel that anxiety, where that sort of buzzy, overwhelming feel. It's because that energy isn't going anywhere. And actually, we need to somehow expel it in some way. And that's when the mind starts kind of getting stuck in that worry cycle. So this is where action becomes really powerful, basically. It's like if you take any sort of small intentional step, it just helps you. So firstly, it's going to help you complete that stress cycle. It's going to help release that energy because you're actually doing something. So so you're kind of clearing that energy out of your system, that built up energy. Secondly, it's kind of sending a really clear signal to your brain that, okay, I'm doing something about this. Everything's okay. So it's signaling safety. And then thirdly, it shifts what's happening in your brain. So anxiety kind of is when it lights up the amygdala, like a part of your brain, which is like the alarm. And that's kind of the part which is responsible for scanning for threats. But when you take action, you're actually activating another part of your brain, that prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that handles rational thinking, problem solving, perspective. So your whole system basically starts to calm down. So it's really, really powerful, even if it's like the tiniest step. And then the other thing was dopamine. So when we take action, even like a little small step, the brain is releasing dopamine. And dopamine is basically your chemical, which is linked to motivation and reward. So if you're doing something small, you kind of get that positive feedback loop. You take a small step, you feel a little bit better, and that makes it easier to take the next step. So it's all these little things which help you to feel like it gives you a sense of agency. It helps you to feel like you can influence your situation much better. And it gives you that little bit of sense of control. Control is a funny one because we all like to feel in control, but you don't want to feel too in control, but you want to have that feeling, that sense of it, that you can influence what happens. You're not just stuck there. So that's why I really love it. So action absorbs anxiety. And I think the important thing to say here, it doesn't have to be a massive, whopping, great big step. It can literally be one breath. It could be just going outside to get a breath of fresh air. it could be like you yesterday looking out the window and going, that was a good action. It doesn't really matter. No one really cares. It can be something so small, but actually it just moves you forward.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's so true. I absolutely love this action absorbs anxiety. I mean, it's something that I think we talk about in a roundabout way a lot of the time, because it is so true that, because going back to the kind of freeze response, what happens when we sit frozen without taking action is that it just gets worse. We feel worse. I think ultimately when you take action, and this is just another way of saying it, it's like when you take action, you feel better. You just feel better when you actually take action. And like you say, it can be small action or big action, but it shifts the energy and it moves that energy. So you immediately feel better. And also the other thing this is making me think of is clarity follows action, which is something that I'm not. We might have done a whole. We might have done a whole episode on this, but again, like everything, like all of these conversations, they bear repeating. And you and I know how valuable it is to hear the same things all the time in slightly different ways. This is how we learn. This is how we really take things on board. This is how the penny starts dropping. Because ultimately, you know, when you hear something just once, it generally doesn't sink in. Whereas when you hear the same thing said different ways, it's like when you hear different people saying things in slightly different ways, and one day you'll just be like, oh my God, and something will click in you because of a specific way that someone has said something. But yeah, it makes me think of the clarity follows action, which is just, I think this is so key as well. Like, we think that we need to know exactly what we have to do next. But the truth is that what brings us clarity is just to take any old fucking step. Just take a step, just move forward. I really, it's something I've really kind of got into the habit of doing over the last 4 or 5 years, is just, I have this kind of image constantly of me just like moving forward, just somehow moving forward, just creating that forward momentum. And even if you don't know exactly where you're going, just by taking some kind of action, by doing that, it is gonna become more clear what the next thing and the next thing. I mean, it's like, you know, take the example of us growing our businesses. I mean, half the time I'm just freaking flailing around in the dark, not knowing what the hell I'm doing. But actually, what keeps me moving forward is just by taking a step. It might not be the right step. It might be entirely the wrong step. But it's just by virtue of taking it, it's going to give you a bit more clarity about what to do after that. So yeah, it's you know, I think it's like, don't wait to take the action, don't wait to feel ready, don't, you know, when you're doing something, when you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, you're doing something you've never done before, you're not going to know the exact route. There's, you know, it's so rare in life that it's like, well, we do this and then that's going to happen and then that's going to happen, and you know, life doesn't fucking work like that. You know, it's all over the place. It's not linear in that way. So I also love clarity follows action, because I have found that to be so damn true. And I think it really helps you to take that forward movement, whatever that looks like. And it can be the tiniest little thing, sending an email or researching something or whatever it is, whatever that action is, just take the action and then things will start becoming clear, you know?
Yeah. And this really makes me think of why breathing is so important. So often when we, going back to that freeze response, when you are, I mean, again, if you think back to our ancestors, if you're being hunted or you're being chased by an animal, or you are trying not to be seen, so you hold, you know, you literally are so still and you hold your breath. And often that's what so many of us do. If you were being followed in an alley, or, you know, if you're trying not to be seen, you hold your breath, or if you freeze out of fright. And then what we tend to do, what so many people do, is that actually during the day, you might suddenly find yourself holding your breath. So lots of people do it. It's known as a thing, email apnea. Lots of people do it if they're kind of replying to an email or about send, they hold their breath. And again, that's kind of like you're stuck in this frozen moment. And in order to get out of that, what's the best thing to do? Obviously, consciously, intentionally take an action of a breath and start up again, and moving forwards. And so, and the way that you can totally change that is just by obviously bringing awareness to how you're breathing. But again, it's just like this. It's just so interesting how we do tend to, freezing and stopping for whatever it is not a great thing. We are human beings, and we are programmed just to keep moving forward, and momentum. And we all know how good momentum is, when particularly, gosh, in our businesses, when you get a bit of a momentum going, it feels so good. And I think, interestingly for me, was it last year now, when I was feeling a little bit stuck, I was changing the direction of what I was doing, a little bit more away from menopause focused and more into breathing, although I still do both. But I was feeling a bit stuck. I was really feeling frustration because I didn't quite know where I was going. But I just kept on going. I kept on putting content out. I kept learning. I kept following what felt good. I didn't really know where I was going, but actually it kept me moving forward, and it sort of all, and clarity eventually came, and it does come. And sometimes you've just got to go through that messy middle to find out the right path. And I think we're all so blimmin' terrified of making a mistake that that's often what stops us. So, for example, my eldest Felix at the moment, he's starting to think about next step after uni, and all I can keep saying to him is like, don't worry about making a mistake, because you're going to make loads of mistakes along the way. Just decide on one thing and just go with it. If it's a mistake, doesn't matter, go and do something else. But I think we're all so worried of like, I've got to get it right first time, and so that does, you can see it just makes you go, I just don't know what to do, and that's where the indecision comes and the stuckness comes. So yes, it's so powerful, just moving forwards. And the science behind it says it does help you. It helps with anxiety, it helps with clarity. And just taking those steps.
100%. And also, I think another thing to bear in mind is that I think we often think that everybody else has got it all figured out.
A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you.
And they don't. And they really don't. Like I sometimes, the people I sort of look up to, or whatever you want to call it, the people I kind of follow and look to see what they're doing in their businesses and how they're growing and I think we all feel like we don't know what the fuck we're doing most of the time, but we're under the illusion that the rest of the world has got it all sorted and has got, knows exactly what they're doing. And also, speaking to the making mistakes, this is such a big one. This is so important because, we are, I think, as humans, we're so averse to quote making a mistake or quote failing. And the reason I say quote is because I don't even believe in failure. I don't even think failure is a thing. It's just not even a thing. Like, it's just, failing is something that we have to do multiple times in order to get where we want to go. It's just as simple as that. And making mistakes, it's like there needs to be another name for failure and another name for making mistakes, because there's the sort of negative connotations around those two things. And actually, making mistakes and failing are nothing more than just living your goddamn life and going through what every other human being does, which is falling over, getting back up, starting again, falling over, getting back up, starting again, doing something wrong, or realizing that you've gone down the wrong path. And like you were saying to Felix, like, you just I mean, it's such a cliche, isn't it? But we learn through our mistakes, and we have to make mistakes, and we have to fail in order to work out where it is we're going and what it is that we want. So I think we just need to really reframe those things and not think of them as bad. Just think of them as actually inevitabilities of living a successful life. Because nobody who, with any success, you think about the most successful people on the planet who are killing it and, whatever they may be doing, every single one of those people will have made multiple mistakes and will have failed multiple times. This is just how it works. So we've got to stop shying away from, oh God, but what if I fail, or what if I muck up, or what if I make a mistake? I mean, it's like I think back to my sort of career trajectory, and I've kind of jumped all over the place and gone from there to there to there to there. Some people might look at my life and my sort of career trajectory and what I've done and go, bloody hell, she's a bit all over the shop, isn't she? But actually, I've just been one of those people that's gone, this doesn't feel right, moving on. Try this. This doesn't feel right. Okay, moving on. You know, we have to give ourselves permission to make this to change and you know, try other things like you know, life in many ways it's about testing things out. It's about trying things out. But I think we all feel like, oh, you have to do this one thing, and if you've been doing this one thing for 10 years, then God forbid you should leave it and move on to something else that feels better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm going off on all kinds of tangents.
Totally, because I've no, I've been the same. I've done various careers, PR, teaching, now doing what I'm doing. I mean, I've really gone all over the shop as well. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, failure is feedback. I think feedback would be a much better word for it. It just is giving you feedback.
Yeah.
This is, okay, this hasn't worked. Why hasn't it worked? I'm going to learn from my mistakes. I'm going to learn what I had, and I'm going to just tweak it, and I'm going to go in a slightly different direction. And that really, you know, is the thing. But what we've got to do is try and fail fast. Is if we know something's not working, that we don't just stick with it. Actually, let's fail fast. Let's quickly learn from those mistakes and move on. And I think those are the most successful people, those people who fail a lot, but they recognize, okay, this isn't working, and then they move on. They fail really fast. So that's I think something, I don't know how that's kind of, I mean, it's all linked with what we're talking about this morning, but what else can we say about this?
Well, I love the point that you just made there about, you know, failing fast and moving on, because I think part of the problem is that what happens with a lot of us is that if we quote fail at something, then we're like, we don't try, it paralyzes us and it holds us back, because we allow failure to affect us in a way that we shouldn't.
Yeah, we've got to let it go. We've got to learn to let it go.
Just fucking forget it and move on to the next thing. But so many people paralyze themselves by failing at something or making a mistake and then feeling like, well, shit, well, now I'm
feeling like feeling like they can't do anything because they're such a failure and their self-esteem starts to drop.
It's bonkers. It's bonkers. We have to learn to just make those mistakes and have those failures, but just be like, well, this isn't going to stop me. I think what I'm trying to say is that failure or mistakes tend to stop people from continuing to move forward. So people then just get stuck because they're like, oh, well, that went wrong, therefore I'm going to give up. No. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, stuckness is such a big, it's horrible. It's so frustrating when you feel like you are stuck and you're not sure which direction to go in. And that's where I know for me is that is when, if you either talk to somebody like a business person who can help you, or a coach, life coaches are brilliant for this sort of thing. They are all about moving you forward, helping you take that next step forward. And that's simply what coaching is. It's about going forward. And it's very, we're all going to get stuck at some point, but you just need to be able to see what your options are in a real clear way. And so if you can't see that, it just means that you are stuck. And actually, so this is an opportunity to go, okay, what is one small step I can take today towards what I want? And often I would always say, go with what lights you up, go with what feels good, go with that, because that is going to lead you somewhere, which is going to be more aligned with who you really are. I think a lot of us get stuck when we're out of alignment with what we enjoy, what we are good at. We're doing something more because we feel we ought to or we should do it. But actually, when we move towards the things which feel really good and make our hearts sing, it's much easier to get more into that flowy state and get that momentum behind you.
100%.
I mean, it can still feel bloody hard sometimes, and we can still get stuck, but I think it's slightly easier.
Yeah. And also to your point about, listen to how you feel about like when something makes you feel good. By the same token, I think we have to get better at listening to our intuition when something doesn't feel right. How many of us stay stuck doing something that we know doesn't feel right, but we're not listening to that intuition? We're listening to our ego, we're listening to the noise, we're listening to friends and family going, oh, well, you can't leave that because you've been doing that for 15 years. And what do you mean? You've put so much time and energy into it, and this is what you do. Da, 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 da. When all the while we can feel in our gut, in our intuition, that we know that it doesn't feel right, but we don't always listen to that. Do you know what I mean? And I think we have to get better at listening to our body, because our body will always tell us the truth. That's why we have this incredible intuition. It's there for a reason. It's there to tell us. It's our heart speaking. And I think some of us just don't listen to that. We're far too busy listening to the noise around us, or listening to the expectation, or listening to the fear, or whatever it is. But actually, we need to learn to really tune into what is our body telling us. And if it's saying this doesn't feel right, then stop pushing that down. And I just think
and also it doesn't have to be massive steps, because if you do, and I'm just thinking about work here, professions, careers, because if you are doing something and maybe once upon a time you did love it, but you've fallen out of love with it, it's time to move on. But then you've got a responsibility because of the money that you earn from it, which is paying all the bills, etc., etc. It doesn't mean that you are stuck in that, or it doesn't mean that you just go and say, sod that, I'm going to do something else. You can do these things very, very gradually. It's just about starting to, on the side, look into other areas of your life which are going to bring you that joy. It doesn't mean, and also it's about trying to, in that job or that profession that you perhaps have fallen out of love with, trying to find the bits, remind yourself of the joyful bits which once upon a time were there. So it can just be small, subtle shifts which are going to make the experience that much more pleasant. And before maybe you do want to go and make a big full-on 360 turn, 180 180 turn, not 360. So it really is all about just those small little steps in whatever it is, just to get out of uncomfortable, feeling like shit and stuckness and all of that.
So circling back 360 to what we started talking about.
There we are. That's right.
The quote again is, action absorbs anxiety. Absorbs anxiety.
Action absorbs anxiety. So just take that small little step, whatever it could be, and just see if it works for you. Because the science says it does work, and I know it works. I know that if I'm feeling really anxious, I just need to sit down and do something, whatever it is. And particularly if you're overwhelmed, I don't know about you, but maybe just write down 3 things you're going to do. Focus on small things, 3 things I'm going to do, and just focus on that. And that just gets you out of that really anxious state.
Totally. Well, it's 9:30. So we'll wrap it up. We'll be back on Monday talking about who knows what.
Who knows? Okay.
All right, love. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. You too.
Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.